Menagerie. Let's talk about some movies.
Ahoy mateys! Spoilers ahead. If you're new to this channel, do me a favor, like and subscribe so I can keep making more videos like this and even deeper dives into music, movies, TV, and more. Civil War's here. No, not the Drizzy and Kung Fu Kenny beef. Is this movie the one piece of art that will unite or destroy us? Nah, it's not like that. It's a little different than advertised and is less warmongering first-person shooter than it is a centrist indictment of the euphoria felt by zealots on either side of the aisle. Alright, I'll stop at the track name puns, I'm sorry. For better or worse, Civil War focuses on a group of photojournalists putting themselves in danger for their Pulitzer Prize-winning picture. Writer and director Alex Garland said in an interview with the Big Picture podcast that, like the legislative, judicial, and executive branches, quote, in the old days, journalistic institutions really saw themselves as having a function that related to systems of checks and balances. Nowadays, with the lobbyists, 24-hour news cycles, social media misinformation, and political payola, journalist integrity has diminished. That said, by setting it in a fictional story, it also doesn't fully commit to the journalism side the way something like The Five Bloods honored real-life fallen soldiers. Plot details are intentionally vague, like how they got to a civil war, further distancing viewers from their own biases, but it's definitely an anti-war thriller. We get an offhanded remark about an Antifa genocide like Obi-Wan mentioning the Clone Wars, but I don't think there's going to be a prequel series about midichlorians and dissenting senates explaining this one. You could argue that America is already one national security threat away from a dictatorship, but still some context in the movie would be nice. It seems that Garland wanted to tackle the problems with having a two-party system and said something along the lines of, if you can't ever see California and Texas coming together to fight a fascist leader, then what does that say about the two-party system? Supposedly this is Garland's last go at directing, and I hope that's not true because I love Ex Machina, but maybe a guy with such big ideas needs a director to rein him in with a more digestible sensibility. Anyway, free Palestine. Between this, Monkey Man, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, it's Simian season, baby! Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, which is a terrible title by the way, is just a pretty stupid blockbuster, and I had a blast. I went with a couple friends and just broed out during this, but I think if you go into it not expecting much, you'll have a good time. Alcohol and devil's lettuce help too. Thankfully, there's more and more monster time in this series as the movies go on because we all know that the humans are the least interesting parts. Please, no more characters with podcasts. Even Paperboy couldn't make them interesting. Back to the monsters. Kong kinda gets his ass kicked several times and Godzilla is basically the ringer, but the fight scenes are a blast. Where else are you going to see Godzilla suplex Kong off of the Great Pyramids of Giza? There's nothing like that feeling.
That's magic.
On all-time movie scale, this is like a D+, but as far as drinking movies go, 10 out of 10. We also watched Dan Stevens go from a hidden dimension inside the Earth, go to a nearby base, and bring back an already perfectly made giant metal glove for Kong to wear, all in the span of 5 minutes. Oh, and that whole sequence was set to I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss. It makes no sense, but absolutely rules. The villain is one ugly chimp guy, which isn't as cool as all the different monsters in the last few movies, but overall, me and my friends had a good time watching what is basically the WWE of kaiju movies, especially during WrestleMania weekend.
This is an Angelo Dawkins
taking out the bloodline, making it look easy.
Speaking of monkey movies, Dev Patel makes his directorial debut with Monkey Man, and it is one hell of a debut. Being most known for dramas like Slumdog Millionaire and Lion, Dev Patel does a 180 and proves himself to be a contender for Hollywood's newest action hero, but warning, this is not really an action movie. The movie is rated R, and spoilers, the only two fight scenes are as gruesome and beautifully choreographed as something like The Raid or The Night Comes For Us. I'm not a martial artist, but the kid's fighting style was very reminiscent of the Indonesian style featured in those movies called Silat, which is perfect for knife fighting and quick strikes. And that final knife fight gets real gross, let me tell you. The fight coordinator said Patel did all of his own stunts and even broke his hand, toe, and got an eye infection in the process, but powered through. However, like I mentioned, there are really only two big action set pieces in the movie, and the rest is an exploration of Indian culture and Hinduism. This includes a sect of transgender warrior monks who get their badass moments later in the movie, but even the slower middle section with them was pretty cool. One nitpick is that it seems like a love story subplot was introduced then dropped with the girl from the brothel, but other than that, I don't have many complaints about this one. The cinematography is fantastic and was supposedly even shot on an iPhone in some scenes because their gear broke and didn't have the budget to wait for repairs, so Dev said fuck it and grabbed his phone. Great note for first-time filmmakers. If you put in the hard work and elbow grease with a thoughtful story, you've got a good chance of making something great. Based on true events and set during the peak of the COVID pandemic, Dumb Money is about the GameStop craze and one Reddit user who turned the tables against the Wall Street financial elite. Paul Dano stars as a quiet streamer who gains a following by posting stock information, and hey, am I losing you? I know it sounds kind of boring when trying to describe this movie, but it was actually pretty entertaining look at the collective power of the working class when we stick together to fight the ruling class, because let's be honest, that's where we've ended up. A tiny group of people controls the majority of the money in the country, and thanks to loopholes and lack of education, they're able to manipulate markets and margins for their own benefit. Shout out to Seth Rogen and Sebastian Stan for perfectly portraying two types of rich douchebags that get some tasty comeuppance. And kudos to all the people in real life that contributed to this act of defiance. Hopefully, in the future, we're able to distribute wealth more evenly throughout our population. But hey, that's just my dumb thoughts on money. When you see Nick Cage on the poster or a trailer of an indie movie that you've never heard of, it's probably gonna be good, or at least one of a kind. Like Pig and Mandy, Dream Scenario is a very unique and quirky movie about a man who starts entering other people's dreams uninvited, even if they've never met before. What starts out as an innocuous inconvenience turns into something much more sinister. This movie, like Civil War, at the very least inspires bigger conversations, specifically about dreams and the human mind. Like, can we be traumatized by nightmares and bad dreams, even though they didn't technically happen? I have dreams all the time of crashing cars because I live in LA and it's like Mad Max Fury Road out here. How many times have you heard about a couple waking up and blaming the other for cheating on them in their dreams? Dream Scenario takes this idea a step further and comments on cancel culture, as Cage's character has everything taken from him for appearing in these sometimes salacious scenes. In an interview, Cage even calls this his best movie, saying this is where he felt he could relate and authentically explore his own feelings after becoming an online meme. He describes his experience of waking up one morning to viral videos like Nick Cage loses his shit and the explosion of using his image without his consent or control, to the point of a mental breakdown just like his character in Dream Scenario. One filmmaking highlight is somehow, despite it never plainly stating which scenes are real and which were dreams, they seamlessly bounce between the two, and I can almost always tell, oh, this is a dream now, or this is reality. That is, until they start to play with those expectations. This is probably my favorite movie I watched this month, and might be one of my favorites of the year so far. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and sweet dreams.